Well, you talk about knowing everything, and you do know everything when it comes to Texas football. And I know y'all were all over the combine on InsideTexas.com all weekend long. But, man, I want to get your thoughts. I mean, obviously, there's so many different angles we could dive into with 11 Longhorns participating this weekend. But I assume Xavier Worthy's where you want to begin. But, shoot, wherever you want to go in terms of your biggest combine takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Chase Daniel, former Missouri Tiger, great. Former Southlake Carroll, great. Played under Todd Dodge for the Dragons. Came out and said Texas won the NFL Combine. Now, this is not something that's going to have a banner at DKR. Unlike College Station, they will not get an award for this. But I think Chase Daniel made a really good point. I think you could make a case for almost every guy that was there that worked out. They did something unique. They did something different. And, yeah, we got to start with the X-Man. You know, he's going to give it to you. Xavier Worthy, look, we knew he was fast. I didn't see 4.21 coming. I really didn't. And you and I have watched him for 3 years. I watched him a little bit in high school too. I mean, the dude could always – no one ever caught him from behind. I mean, but 4.21, more than that though, was the excitement in the building when it happened.
Yeah.
I thought that made for great television. I think everyone in the networks of the offseason for NFL stuff thought, okay, we just hit a home run with this. And it was good because it puts Texas on the national stage. Now everybody's looking up, well, what did Texas do last year? Well, what is Sark doing with these receivers? And if you want to help Chris Jackson with wide receiver recruiting, it just happened this weekend. And it started with Xavier Worthy.
That's a great point. Look, the NFL Combine is a television program, and there's always a star of every show. And Texas football was the star of the show, and it started with the X-Man, like you said. And you're right. Like, if you would have asked me to give a prediction for Xavier Worthy's 40 time going into the weekend, I would have said 4.3, and that's damn fast right there.
Flying.
And then he goes 4.25 on his first attempt, and it's rare, right? I feel like guys are usually faster on their first attempt than they are their second one. But he goes 4.25, Justin. And that right there is a top 5 combine time ever. So a lot of guys in that spot would have been like, oh shit, my work here is done. Like, exactly. I don't need to top that. But Worthy, he talked a big game too at his press conference on Friday. He's like, no, I think I got a real shot to beat John Ross's record. And then he goes out there the second time around, and it showed 4.22 on the screen, which, hey, tying the record's a big deal. But then we find out it's 4.21. Yeah, he was one of those borderline first, second round picks. Sure feels like he's a lock after that time, doesn't it?
Well, and the thing they're going to hold against him, and they've always held it against him, is that he's 165 pounds. And I would probably want to see proof that he's even that big. I mean, Dynamite comes in small packages, and that's why it's got a big X sticker on the outside of it, because, I mean, the dude just flew. The thing that I noticed about him that I guess I hadn't seen before, because we don't watch him run track. We don't watch him do the working out types of stuff most of the time. How hard he runs.
Yeah.
You know how light you have to be to travel 40 yards in 4.21 seconds. But look how hard every step is. They got more aggressive as he got closer to the line. And so it was just a unique thing. It was fun. It was exciting. Happy for Xavier Worthy. Now it makes a lot of sense. All the touchdowns he scored in Austin, I think he had, 35 touchdowns while he was in Austin. Makes a lot of sense. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round guy. Call me crazy. Now, if Al Davis was still alive, he's a Las Vegas Raider. That dude's going to the Strip. I mean, that's done. But Al's rest in peace right now. And so I'm curious who's going to go first, him or the other guy we're about to talk about, Adon Mitchell.
Yeah, perfect segue right there.
First for receivers.
First from the receivers. Yeah, it feels like Byron Murphy's going first.
Byron's going to be your first horn off the board. You that big, you that strong, you that everything. That pit bull is going somewhere big.
Oh, yeah. And he stole the show on Thursday with his performance on day one of the Combine. But I just saw this stat. Warren Sharp, Sharp Football, tweeted this out over the weekend. And I just saw it right before we came on the air, Justin. There are 2 receivers at the Combine since 2015 who have run 4.35 or better and are at least 6'2" and 205 pounds. Adon Mitchell is one of them. The other one is DK Metcalf, who has become one of the very best receivers in all of football. Now, I don't know if Adon Mitchell is going to be DK Metcalf, but if he's anything close to what the Seahawks number 1 receiver has turned into, then, yeah, whoever is drafting Adonai, He's getting a godsend, no pun intended.
Yeah, I was talking to my boy Dane Brugler this morning, post combine. We're going to have him over at the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel real soon.
Nice.
Good buddy of mine. He does a tremendous job. Be sure and follow him, and he does a great job. With Ad and I, that there's he to me. I didn't. If you didn't see a 4.21 from Xavier, I damn sure didn't see a 4.34 from Adnan. I think that was the best official time he had was the 4.34.
Mm-hmm.
But then also the vertical jump. But then also like 3 or 4 other events. Like he just tested so much better than I was expecting. Like I thought he would do well. I did not see a 4.34. And that's kind of the thing that's, to me, that put him in the first round conversation. I know this much. The Kansas City Chiefs are drafting a wide receiver with that last pick in the first round. You can go to any prop bet in Vegas and make that one. That's going to happen. But the question is going to be, are they going to go for AD, the length guy that can go the field, or are they going to go for the short and sweet guy with Xavier Worthy? Either one's about to have a big draft day, and they're going to have a nice career in the NFL. I was more surprised with Mitchell. I bet you were too. I mean, we knew what he did. To me, he's more of a gamer than he was a athlete running in drills at a combine. He always had big catches. He always, high pointed the ball well. He came from everywhere he went. He won. He was a winner. He was constantly around winning. I think that's part of it as well. And so the biggest thing, I think the only thing that you can hold back on each one, like we said with Worthy, is 165. He'll get up to about 170. He'll do the thing that Kyler Murray did right before his draft and just drink creatine for probably 3 or 4 weeks. He'll get to 170, 175 at Texas Pro Day, and that'll be enough to hopefully, quell a little bit of the disbeliefs. For Mitchell, I think the biggest thing they're going to look at is he soft? Because he wasn't the best in pass or run blocking, rather. He didn't always match physicality with the DBs. But again, he was a gamer. Again, he was a guy that made big plays at big times in big moments. And there's something to be said about that kind of guy. And so to me, Byron Murphy's going first, but the biggest question going into April to that draft is going to be who's going to be the first receiver picked. I do think one of them's going in the first round. I just could not tell you which one.
Yeah, I think there's a scenario where both of them go in the first round. Like the Chiefs question is obviously a great one because I'm with you. Everyone's with you. The Chiefs are going wide receiver at 32. It's, do they take a Texas guy, or also will they have their choice of Texas guy? Like maybe one of those guys is already off the board and then, they have to take the one that's left with that last pick in the first round. So I was looking at a mock today and it came out before the Mike Evans news, right? Mike Evans is re-signing with Tampa Bay, but it had Adon Mitchell going 26 to Tampa. Now maybe with Evans going back, that takes the Bucs off the board for a wide receiver in round 1, but it had Mitchell going 26 and then Worthy going 32 to Kansas City. So, with how much teams value receivers nowadays, Jay Wells, you know this better than I do. Like there's a scenario where both of those guys end up going in round 1.
And this is something I think we've all learned, you and I both, about the NFL draft. It's not so much where you're slotted or predicted. It's when your position starts coming off the board. Yeah. And it's never more apparent than at quarterback. That the quarterback run is the run. But every position has that. And I'll say this, if Adon Mitchell hypothetically goes late 20s somewhere, Baltimore, well, they wouldn't go to Baltimore. They just stocked up on receivers, but somewhere in the a good playoff team, Kansas City might have to trade up. Yeah. Because if you're at 32 and you're going to wait for Worthy or you're going to wait for Mitchell, I don't think Kansas City would do that. I think they want one of those two guys. Even before the combine, Kansas City had reached out and had informal stuff with Byron Murphy, Adon Mitchell, and Xavier Worthy, among others. They were already talking to those guys before the combine. And so there's definitely some interest there. But to me, the tell will be when receivers start to come off the board. Because when there's a run on receivers, that's when you're going to see teams starting to scramble a little bit, start to move up a little bit. And that's how Worthy or Mitchell will slide in. And if Texas can get 2 wide receivers in the first round, buddy, I don't think that's happened since like 1980. I think that's the last time that happened. I believe it was with who? Oh, man, I believe that was 1980s team. I believe it was Johnny Lamb Jones. Johnny Johnson was a DB for the Rams. They had one other guy. And so it would be rare. But to me, the tell is going to be when receivers start to come off the board.
I like that. Yep. Go to text line 512-222-9328. Somebody asked, what's Jordan Whittington's 40 time? He did not run. Unfortunately, he was unable to participate in any of the on-field drills as he's rehabbing from a hamstring injury. Jay Wells, quick thoughts on Jordan Whittington. I mean, it's, every Texas fan loves him. We know how valuable he was to this team for the last 4 years, but couldn't do stuff at the Senior Bowl, couldn't do stuff at the Combine. It seems like that's probably going to hurt his chances of being drafted in April, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think this is something that we knew, honestly, because as much as Texas fans love Jordan Whittington, and for every reason, consummate team player, bleeds burnt orange, played two different positions, wore 3 or 4 different numbers. I think he was a calming presence in that wide receiver room this year. I think he was the consistent guy that showed up grateful and eager, not the most talented, but the hardest worker in that group. And that brought the cream to the top, I felt like, with that group. I never envisioned Whittington getting drafted. Now, can he make it, in the league and, get a cup of coffee as an undrafted free agent? Absolutely. But the problem that Whittington's going to have is not his ability on the field. It's staying healthy. That's always been his thing. He's had injury problems since he was in high school at Cuero. And so to me, that's what's going to be held against him. Now, granted, he's going to get signed as an undrafted free agent. He's going to wind up in a camp. And then if he's healthy, that's where we can start to talk about, all right, is he going to make a practice squad? Is he going to, how long is he going to make it in the summertime or in the fall camp rather until he gets cut? Because that's going to be the biggest thing. He needs to get healthy. If he goes out to this Texas Pro Day and runs a good 40 and tests well and does well in front of these NFL scouts, I think that's going to increase his chances of getting an early phone call in the late 7th round when they start to get phone calls, when they know certain guys aren't going to get drafted and they start throwing out crazy offers. I don't know if you remember Deshaun Jameson last year. He started getting phone calls right before the end of the 7th round and wound up getting the highest signing bonus of any undrafted free agent in the NFL. Guy went to the 49ers for like $35,000. That's crazy for an undrafted free agent. I think Whittington has traits that NFL teams will love. I think he would test well or interview well rather. But Bubba, he's got to stay healthy no matter what he does on the field. If he can't stay healthy, that's going to be his downfall.
No doubt. It's almost better to be a UDFA, right, than a late round draft pick.
Because you get to pick where you go.
Bingo. Yeah. Like guys want to get drafted. Of course, that's like every college football player's goal is to ultimately get drafted to the NFL. But you're right. Yeah. You get your pick of the litter. So you still get a decent chunk of change potentially. And better to end up in San Francisco than to end up in, I don't know, I guess Cleveland's a bad example now. They've always been my go-to team to dump on. Yeah. The Panthers. That's the one to go with right now. Disaster.
Bad place.
Yeah. What else Longhorn wise at the Combine? I mean, you can talk Sanders, Christian Jones, I thought did pretty good yesterday. The big guys on Thursday with Sweat and Murphy. Before we kind of shift gears and get to some other, current team news, what else stands out from the Combine?
Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat were the talk of the day. I mean, T'Vondre Sweat's the best. I mean, that guy, even at his size, to run that way is so impressive. But I love they were out there competing. I love they were out there doing that. Byron Murphy was already going to be a first-round pick. He just increased his stock. That's all he did. He wanted to solidify a top 15. And I'll be honest, I didn't know if he was in that top 15 range for sure. We can say safely after this combine he is. And so that's going to be your first guy drafted. 3-star out of DeSoto. He arrived in Austin before he took one class at Texas with an associate's degree. He is the second youngest player in the entire draft. He will be 20 years old in 6 months when he's selected in late April. So Byron Murphy did what he had to do, and that was great. Sweat did a great job. I thought Christian Jones, he ran well and he tested well, but to me, the Senior Bowl practices are what really elevated his stock. I think he was a guy that was looking at a day 3 pick, 5, 6, 7th round. I think you could, when tackles start to come off the board, you may get him in the 4th. I still think he's probably a 5th rounder, but that's what Christian Jones did for himself. He went out there and competed, did well. Listen, Ryan Watts, for his size, ran really well. Good vert, good broad jump. Like that guy, I think because, changing positions is tough.
Yeah.
Asking a guy that's played cornerback his entire life to say, hey, by the way, you're going to play safety now at the highest possible level. And Ryan Watts, he embraced it. He came with it. And I think he put his name on that safety board. I think he's another day 3 guy that could creep up into the 4th round just because of his testing. He's such a big guy. NFLs love that big, long, prototypical defensive back. They love any guy that's 6'2", 6'3", with that rangy, wingspan. Ryan Watts did a really good job, I felt like. I want to see if there's anybody else we're missing. Sanders. Now, I didn't expect him to, he didn't run as well as I thought he'd run a little bit better. But at the same time, I look at it like the tight end position is so much more athletic now. And it's so much more of a focus for a lot of these NFL offenses. And what Ja'Tavion Sanders did effortlessly was catch the ball in those those drills where they're just hammering at you back and forth, back and forth. I believe Matt Miller, an NFL draft analyst with ESPN, said that was the cleanest, that he had the cleanest workout of all the tight ends. And that's Ja'Tavion, because listen, you and I both know he didn't play tight end in high school. He played wide receiver and he played go, jump, and catch the ball. There was also another reference. I wanted to go back to some of the stuff that we used to talk about on the air, because someone said that he was catching the ball like he had catcher mitts for hands. And I thought, that's trademark, dude. I said that 3 years ago. That sucker, I should have got that on a shirt.
Yeah.
I think Sanders did well too. I think Sanders is probably a late 2nd rounder, possibly 3rd rounder. I think the LA Rams would be perfect. He could play with Gerald Everett. He could kind of develop in that system. He's going to wind up being a starter in the NFL for a good lick. But yeah, overall, top to bottom, the Horns may have won the combine. And again, there will be no banners. There's not going to be any banners. This isn't College Station. They're not going to hang any. There's no trophies. But what it did help was it helped Texas with recruiting, because that's what the draft does. 100%. You talk to these recruits, one of the first things out of their mouth is, I want to be developed and go to the NFL. And you need to go to InsideTexas.com every day, but especially soon, because Joe Cook is working on a story right now talking about that narrative that Texas can't develop. It died. It's no longer with us.
That's
it's no longer with us. And so that's something you definitely want to check out and read, because Texas just did a fantastic job. That I don't think we could have envisioned a better weekend in Indianapolis.